This is the Atlantic Channel. Hey, that's how I like to start my day. Well, sound out your emotional body. Ooh, there aren't enough words to put the intelligence in our feelings to flesh them out to anyone's satisfaction. So don't worry about anyone, or certainly not everyone, understanding how you feel. How do you feel? So we're walking in Penlatch territory, also known as Squalid Cum. The locals call it Squalid Cum because other cum is squalid. Generations of demons live here. BC and this west coast and Vancouver Island, Oceanside, is controlled by evil. I'm just going to speak in this way today because I feel like it and I'm going to indulge myself, even though it's not perfectly explanatory to the average listener. The world is controlled by evil. It's not a metaphysical evil, it's a people evil. Okay? If I say demons, I mean the ways that people on a professional level and people on a pathological level do things and act upon forces and compulsions which they do not know and can never satisfy and are never responsible for. Okay? Okay, so they and those around them can put themselves in positions, and the victim themselves helps put themselves in a position where people of various ways and classes and means can inflict serious harm, shock, and damage upon people who then would be called the scapegoat, in as much as that is the role that you're forced into. And when you're hurt, you're always forced into a role. Okay, when people hurt you, you're always forced into a role. There's a reason for that. Okay, a simple observation that tells you a lot of information. People are hurt on any level, any kind of crime or not crime, put into a role. What role do you think you serve? And then that also means you're not playing other roles, because people who play certain roles don't get hurt, do they? Or if they have been hurt, they don't get hurt anymore because they found a good role to play. So when people find jobs, they're finding roles to play. Okay? Anyone who finds a job finds a role to play. Right? People in spiritual groups are playing a role. People at the yoga center are playing a role. People at the shopping center are playing a role. Mothers and fathers play roles. Sons and daughters play roles. Brothers and sisters and uncles and aunties, sons and daughters play roles. Right? Whenever someone's hurt, they form a personality. Personality is the scar tissue of mass human trauma. Could have gone the other way. Okay. Things are going to come out of our mouths. Things are going to come out of our ass. That's the subtitle of today's video. All my videos. Okay. So you see isn't that weird? Like the camera's over here. Okay. So that's the BC Hydro sign. Interesting. coming. It's gonna be perfect. Lana, hena, amaka hena, chocolaka tika 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 tika. I've learned a few things about the world. It's logs. Whew. It's been a water world for a few weeks now, maybe in a few months. It's been dark, gloomy, and watery, snowy, and cold. That's been January, and you might say it's to be expected in Canada and here, but not a lot of sun. Not a lot of sun. It's Thursday, I think, today, or Wednesday, or Thursday. Yeah. And there is evil among us. There are things to be afraid of, and that we think it is this thing or that thing. We do not know for sure, because fear conjures up many things. But know this, that if you fear evil, there probably is something evil around you. But don't be so sure that you know exactly what it is, for it often threatens more than it does. But I see patterns. I've seen patterns in my life last week. There, you have to start to appreciate that there is a deeper level to things. Things that scared the shit out of me in the last week. Yesterday, the day before that, I was literally scared shitless. I mean, I was shitting okay, and I have been attacked to the point that it affected my shit, but this was something worse. I was imprisoned by my fear, and it was a fear also of prison. Ugh. Yeah. Where am I going? Let's see. I think there might be some people behind me at some point. I don't know. But we're going to try to have a nice day. I am feeling much better. I am. My lungs doing good. I've got some beans on me today. That's my major protein, and believe me, it's going to be great. And going to be great. Nothing like a picture of a long path. Like a long path in the woods. There's nothing like a beautiful, roughly kept path. Look, I'm gonna take a crap. You know, my ass end and stuff like that perpetually has a rash now. I've been wiping my ass with the, ever since I started wiping my ass with the forest floor, because I get various chemicals that it leach off of some lovely greenery. It isn't painful, it just causes a little splotchiness. It's like a tattoo. Tattoo. I like the word tattoo. Tattoo. Tattoo, come here. I want to see if we can bounce up and down on my knee. Okay. You know, I was sexually assaulted by the first young white females who ever had control or responsibility for my person other than my parents. And I sat in a corner and I pissed myself for fear of them. And this was something that wouldn't be considered sexual assault. Physically frightened me so much, and I pissed myself. I had never pissed myself in my entire life. I was 3 years old. I had never wet the bed. I'd never pissed myself. Right? They didn't come to check on me. I didn't tell my mother anything. I basically spent the whole time in a dark room by myself with wet pants. When you're a child, I can tell you, you don't really understand fear. It is like an animal, a purely physical response. You don't know you're afraid. I mean, you could. I'm not saying there aren't those smarter than I, but I wouldn't say that I was like, oh, I'm afraid. Fuck, this is wrong. This is bad. I just pissed myself and sat in the corner. I literally did what children do. I just endured it. Left, never thought about it again, maybe, except it's stuck in my mind. Move on with your life. See, aren't children forgiving? These young white cunts could molest me, and I would just go on my life like nothing happened. And that's why a lot of people, man, get away with things. That's why we don't learn what kind of system we live in, because a lot of the things that its schizoid citizens and lackeys and employees do are to people who, for various reasons of age, infirmity, or just sheer haggardness, don't complain, or they've so long been abused since they're young, they don't even have the words to complain. They simply continue throughout their lives getting abused, but like a 3-year-old, they just go on the next day. Okay? And what happened is I freed up enough of my emotional body that I can't and I don't do that anymore. So if something affects me, it stays with me. I don't usually get upset with people because I'm more in an analysis stage of my life. I'm still at a point where I would just, there's so many types of people that so similarly approach me in so pitiful ways that one day I suppose I could just start saying, how many times someone like you has come up to me and done exactly the same thing? In public or not. Okay, I got a crap now. It's good to be constipated. I mean, how many days of your life are going to add up to pure constipation? I imagine I've had about 3 months of constipation in my entire life. Imagine going on vacation where you get to feel like you're going to take a shit for 3 months. It's like all day long. It's like you get rid of your gay boyfriend. You're like, it's okay. Nothing compares to poo. Who sang that anyway? What trivia? Nothing compares to poo. Look at this tree. Now, the one day, the morning that I come in here, walk in here, and take a crap. Old man or woman are gonna. Usually, old men are very quiet. I'm like, ooh, hi, ooh, hi, hi. Searching for the right one. Nothing comes to poo. You want to hear something fun? So I wander randomly off into the woods, right? And I take a crap. standing up putting my pants back on. And I'm like, what's that there? It looks like a puddle of crap. And then I realized, probably the last time I was out here, I probably crapped there. So I'm actually crapping in the same place as I crapped before. That's how much I crap out here. But it's also how I get attracted to the same spots. Like, I'll sniff out and go. I'll often go to take a crap and there'll be like deer droppings. Well, I mean, because the deer or other animals have gone there as well. God, that doesn't disappear as fast as I thought it would. I would think some enterprising animal would have slurped that right out. Eat shit and live. When people say eat shit and die, well, asshole is an asshole. Right? You'll notice that people with souls are assholes. Right? An asshole is asshole. Someone with asshole is someone with an asshole. They are an asshole because they have asshole. Anasol, right? They have an asshole. Anasol. An anasol is a soul of death, or a son of death, or a soul, as Yule, is the Yule of the soul, or the death of the sun. An anasol would be a son of death. Someone who is an asshole is a son of death. Okay, there we go. On our way. Yeah, so it seems that the evil that was looming over the house has subsided. Last night I slept like a baby. Still had a bit of a nightmare. This one was of my dad. He was driving a truck and driving high speed. And after uttering some fairly belligerent words to me, he was intent on driving, as my dad often did, as fast as possible. I decided to just not look and say, I'll be okay, just don't look, just don't look. I mean, if he hits something, we'll be dead instantly. It'll be all right. You know, you never thought to tell my dad that you were uncomfortable with the way he was driving. You know? Or uncomfortable about anything. The only person who could ever be uncomfortable was my dad. Right? And his discomfort, well, you were ruining everything that made him uncomfortable. Okay, here we are. Walking to Squalor Town. On the way back, I might pick up some weed. Just had a pretty efficient shopping, and I gotta try to save $100 this month. Go for that. Actually, $200 would be good. Let's say $200. Yeah, evil people. Put a circle around it. I was so scared. It's like teaching me, this is what happens when you talk back to evil. This is what happens when you put boundaries around yourself. Let's find a few less. Analysis, right? Analysis, analysis is the ass of Sirius. And that's putting the analysis puts us Paul not just over the sun, but over the Sirius star, which is the star of Genesis. Gen-Isis. Right? That is the star. The Mona Lisa, which means money. The Mona Lisa was and always will be the most expensive painting in the world. It's a symbol of money. narcissist, for instance, of the beneficial system, and the more they take from you, right, the more you need from them. The more they take, the more they take. And they take because they think they have something to give you. Useless advice. Right? Look at therapists. They give people useless advice, and then they take your flesh and blood, your money, for useless advice. They're narcissists. And the more they take, and the less it works, the more you need to come back to them, because it's not working. No therapist is going to say, well, the reason you keep coming back is because this isn't really probably constructive. Sorry. People that rob us of things are people who have been completely robbed of their own lives. They're like dead people. We say they're like demons. Man is born dead, still born. Right? Why do you call a dead baby a stillborn? Right? Stillborn as though they're dead. Even though they're dead, they're stillborn. Isn't that interesting? The human language, because waj means death. Langu is torture, languish, to be tortured, and waj is death, tortured and death. Language. Christ is about the language of torture, the magical thinking of torture and death. And it connects to the nature of Saturnalian and Gregorian time. Your wages, your hours, Egyptian, Horus, Seth, death by every hour. Your wage is in units and measures of the death of your flesh and blood, and that of all the heavens and the earth by birth. Why would you want to do that? Well, I'm going to assume you don't want to. You do it because you have to. But don't tell me you're free. I probably earned exactly about $50,000 in my entire life from like traditional work. That's in 25 years. I did that in the first 3 years of working at a fast food restaurant, right? Maybe $45,000. The taxes, I don't know what that would be. Probably like $35,000. When you make money, you make death. Listen to that as the sounds of spring around me. Oof. We're going to go to a nice place, I know, to have a little seat and a smoke and a talk. A chit chat with a Kit Kat bar. I'm going to go have some beans and rice. I lost a joint down here once and I walked back like half a mile to get it and I found it because I knew roughly where it was. It pays to pay attention, doesn't it? Losing things. As a walker, as a hiker, walker, whatever, never lose your equipment. Never lose your food, your water, everything. Whether it's a stick of marijuana or a stick of a Larabar or whatever, everything's important. No calorie should be wasted. There's something about being exposed to the elements all day that make you very vigorously interested in not losing your shit. If I ever build a fire, I'd make sure to keep all my shit as far away from me as possible. There's this guy traveling across Labrador, which is way off. And he was portaging through lakes and rivers and things. And he made a fire and put his stuff out. And he went to go take a shit. And he came back and his boat was burned. He lost a camera. He lost a bunch of other shit. And he was mortified. He was crying. He had to walk now probably 10, 20, 30, 50 miles out of his way to get home because he couldn't float anymore. Couldn't possibly patch his boat. It was ruined. Because he put the fire out or whatever, started it and put it out, and it had gone down into the peat, or he thought it hadn't started or something. It had gone down into the peat underneath the soil, and then it burned up, found what it wanted, it was hungry, and ate it like an evil demon. Mistakes happen, I understand. And he would, he manned up, showed his emotions, and kept going. And I feel for that. It could have happened to any of us, right? But it teaches you something. Never take anything for granted. Ever. Especially to do with fire. I knew this one guy once who was kind of demonic, and he's always telling me, when you go hiking, man, you should leave your stuff in your wallet. You should take off all your clothes and just go walk off naked. And really just detach from all of those things that you don't really need anyway. It's therapeutic. Let me go this way. Sometimes people tell me, you need to take off all your clothes and look in the mirror. Really look at yourself, honestly. And I'm like, okay. All kinds of creepy stuff. Because he thought he was a therapist. Why? Because he'd had a therapist. The logical extent of his teaching was for everyone to think that they were a therapist too. Why? Because therapists are psychos. They don't ever really help anyone. They just hypnotize people into thinking they're being helped. They order them around, they placate them, they manipulate them with language. I've watched them, been around them my whole life. They're all schizos. I've lived with them. I have them in my family. They've been raped when they were children. They're sexually malicious. They're fucked up. Fucked up do-getters at best. Right? You want to round up some of the sickest people in your community? Find the therapists and psychiatrists. Put those people in the same fucking room. And in 1 week, they'll all be dead. Killing each other. Raping each other. Eating each other's flesh and blood. They're fucking demonic. Anyway. I suppose we shouldn't condemn people to their demonic nature. But at the same time, you can't ignore it either. It's a part of us now. This parasitical nature. It's lunar. It's the matrimonial monetary system, which is to produce and extract by means of suggestion and other forms of extortion and culture and finance the most parasitical type of human nature, behavior, and compliance. And so inevitable violence in every subsequent surrogate family that you seek through your labor, social, and professional networks. Don't worry, it's not that complicated. You don't have to be that smart to understand it. Even I can understand it. I'm a retard. I'm very stupid. I'm sure you all know much more than I do. Please, oh Mr. Therapist, tell me the light. Show me the light. Show me how all my bitterness is all my fault. You have therapists at the front line of a battle. It's like, you're only upset because your mother didn't hug you enough. And you need to think more positive thoughts. It's just like, the therapists would be the first people who are fucking killed. Remember Sydney from MASH? The psychiatrist who comes, he's almost completely gloms onto Hawkeye. He loves him because Hawkeye's also a sociopath. And they form this kind of homosexual bond. Sydney's just one of the people. He's just a shrink, right? He can turn it on and off. He's just a regular Joe who's got a peculiar job. He's a doctor also. He goes to the doctor's tent. He hangs out with the doctors, right? And that gives you this idea of the credibility of psychiatrists. They're like doctors too. Everything on TV is a form of advertising and suggestion. Everything on the radio, even the news stories. They had a news story the other day that older people were consuming large quantities of THC, right? Because they've just legalized it. And that's an advertisement, right? That's an advertisement for THC. People hear it and go, oh, wow, everyone else is doing it, right? They're treating you like an infant. You don't love me no more. And it's like, but I never loved you. You're just a cunt. Yeah, I'll translate. When a man or a husband or a boyfriend says, my ex-girlfriend or my ex-wife's a cunt, what does that mean? Well, it means that they're psychotic and they're tired of putting up with it, and it took a lot of their life away from them, and it's left them in shock, and with it best a number of years to become a little more philosophical and bitter, and to hopefully protect themselves from ever meeting a wildebeest like you ever again. That's the positive version. Pinto beans and quinoa. The two highest protein non-animal sources of protein and fat. Finally. And when I eat them, it's better than a steak. Better than a steak. I went to this stupid burrito restaurant, and they had this Southwestern rice and bean burrito. And you order it, and it's basically all rice with a few beans. So I said to them, I said, you know, I don't want it this way. I want it with mostly beans and just a little bit of rice. I'll pay whatever you want. They said, oh, it's the same price. Because they're stupid. And I said, you should put that on your menu. Like, oh, we can't really do that. We don't have any control. It's like, it's a completely more nutritious food that your customers will really appreciate. It has a higher protein. Of course, you start talking to these young white girls and boys. They don't want to hear anything you have to say. It's like, oh, whatever.